Hello everyone, let's continue our course. In this chapter, I will introduce about the VLAN tag rules. First, about this VLAN forwarding procedure. This step, when a switch receives a frame from the peer, it will checking about the frame, whether this frame carrying a tag. If it's not carrying tag, the switch will add the PVID in that of that interface and then forwarding to next step. If it carrying the tag, the switch will checking if the tag matching this interface allow the list. Okay, if it is use its own VLAN ID and then switch as create VLAN. If not create VLAN, it will discard. If already create, checking this port. Destination port allows the VLAN to pass. If not allow pass, it will also discard. If allow pass, it will go to the forwarding and the tag operation. How to configure access port or the other kind of port of the switch. The switch has three kind of interface. The first kind of interface is access. The access port only can forwarding one VLAN ID, allow to pass this interface. This access port is used to connect to the terminal. The example is here. There's a switch A and we have two hosts which connect to port 01 and port 02. Our planning is the first host use VLAN 3 to access. Another host use VLAN 5 to access. The configuration command is here. Switch, go to the interface configuration mode. Port link type. The port link type, we can choose the access, the trunk, or the hybrid mode. We have three options, and maybe also we have a Q-in-Q mode. This first we try to configure as access create VLAN. We create VLAN 3 and VLAN 5. If we don't create these two VLAN on the switch, we only have one VLAN. That is number one. Okay, continue. We setting the port PVID VLAN. Because we need to setting the VLAN ID on each port, so for this reason we use this command. Port default VLAN 3 and port default VLAN 5. If we're setting the port default VLAN, one interface only can setting one VLAN ID. Okay, and after all this, let's verify. The verification is we use the display interface Ethernet to show this information. We just notice the PVID because we have setting to port default VLAN 3, so it will show you this value PVID 3. The default value, the PVID, is PVID 1. Port link type access. This we already changed. By default, the port link type is hybrid mode. We already changed into access mode. And here is the tag and untag information. The tag VLAN ID none, untagged VLAN ID 3. Because this interface is access, it connects to the host. And typically, the host not process VLAN information because for the host, it maybe only has one network interface. No need to carry any tag. So here, when the packet forwarding to the host, the VLAN information will not carry tag, so it describes as untagged VLAN ID. Configure trunk port attribute. The previous page describes about access interface which connect to the host. This trunk interface typically is connected to another switch. There's switch A and switch B. They use the port 3 connect to each other. We want between them there's multiple VLAN can pass, not only one VLAN. Because maybe switch A connect to lots of hosts, and this host need to carrying forwarding the frame, and this frame carrying the VLAN tag across this link to another switch. So this trunk function is allow multiple VLAN to pass. First step is create VLAN 3 and VLAN 5. Then we go to the port configuration mode. Port link type trunk. Use the same command, just this port change to trunk. And the port trunk PVID VLAN 3. For the trunk interface, by default, the PVID also the VLAN ID 1. Next is port trunk allowed VLAN 5. And by default, this trunk interface only allows VLAN 1 to pass. The others, such as 5 and the others, cannot allow to pass. So we add this command, port trunk allowed VLAN 5. After we configure this two command, 3 and 5. Because this is a PVID VLAN, it will be allowed. And also the VLAN 5 is also be allowed. Let's verify. Display interface Ethernet 03. The PVID is 3. Port link type trunk. VLAN passing 1, 3, and 5. VLAN permitted 1 by default, and 3, 5 we also configure to pass. Configure hybrid port. Hybrid port is flexible. For example, in this topology, we need these 3 hosts. This host and this host use one VLAN to communicate, and these two use another to communicate, and these two they use the third one to communicate. They will use different VLAN and across the same switch to communication. How to realize? For the configuration procedure, the port 1, we have configured port link type hybrid. Actually, this is by default mode. If we don't input this command, it's also the hybrid. Port hybrid PVID VLAN 2. This is changed to PVID VLAN. And also VLAN 2 and tagged. VLAN 99 and tagged. That means this two command is one forwarding the traffic out from this E01. That means from the switch to the host, this direction, these two commands. If there's VLAN 2 or VLAN 99, they are without tag. So actually, this host can accept these two VLAN. 03 use the same command. The difference is PVID VLAN and hybrid VLAN 3, hybrid VLAN 99. So that means for this host, the VLAN 3 and 99 will pass from the switch to the host. And the same to this interface, VLAN 2 and 3 is allowed. Okay, let's see about the hybrid port information. The hybrid port, first, this is E01. After we change the mode, this is hybrid. Tagged VLAN, no, because we haven't input which VLAN we should tag. And the VLAN 1, 2, and 99 has changed to untagged mode. In this chapter, we have learned how to configure access port, trunk port, and hybrid port on Huawei switch. The question of this chapter is true or false. Multiple VLAN may pass a hybrid port without tag. Is that true? We can use a special mode. It is called a hybrid. Okay, so the answer is true. That's all for this chapter. Thanks for watching.